Hello, I'm Professor Cobb. Welcome to DCP Training, Development of Conversation Practice Training, video number 13. Passive voice number 1. The passive voice is used when focusing on the person or thing affected by an action. You can use the passive form if you think that the thing receiving the action is more important or should be emphasized. You can also use the passive form if you do not know who is doing the action or if you do not want to mention who is doing the action. Let's look at the active voice versus the passive voice. The active voice, the thing doing the action, in this case the doctor, plus the verb, heals, plus the thing receiving the action, the patient. The doctor heals the patient. Now in the passive voice, the thing receiving the action, the patient, plus be, are, plus past participle, heal becomes healed, are healed, by the thing doing the action, the doctor. The patients are healed by the doctor. So the doctor heals the patient becomes the patients are healed by the doctor. The thing receiving the action and the one doing the action are trading places, as you can see. And here you're adding, in this case, a be verb and a past participle of the original verb. Note, the following cannot be changed into passive voice. The present perfect or the perfect present perfect progressive, also known as continuous tense, the past perfect progressive, also known as continuous tense, the future perfect progressive, also known as continuous tense, future progressive continuous tense, sentence having intransitive verbs. At this time, if you have not seen DCP Training video number 8, I highly recommend that you stop this video and watch DCP Training video number 8 before proceeding. In that video, it teaches you how to do the following. He or she could be, the teacher could be a substitute for he or she, and you would also know how to use the add-on students in the active past, present, and future. Okay, at this time, look at the answers for the active past. The teacher taught students. The teacher didn't teach students. Did the teacher teach students? Didn't the teacher teach students? Okay, this is very similar to what you would learn on DCP Training video number 8. The teacher taught students. Okay, this in the passive tense, the student is going to trade places with the teacher. You're going to see students right here at the beginning, and you're going to see a be verb plus the past participle of the verb, which is teach, past participle taught, and then you're going to add by, and then you're going to have the teacher. So the teacher taught students becomes students were taught by the teacher. The teacher didn't teach students. Students weren't taught by the teacher. Did the teacher teach students? Becomes were students taught by the teacher. Didn't the teacher teach students? Becomes weren't students taught by the teacher. For the rest of the video, we're going to give you the active answer and followed by the passive answer. The teacher teaches students becomes students are taught by the teacher. The teacher doesn't teach students becomes students aren't taught by the teacher. Does the teacher teach students becomes are the students taught by the teacher. Doesn't the teacher teach students becomes aren't the students taught by the teacher. In the future, the teacher will teach students becomes students will be taught by the teacher. The teacher won't teach students becomes students won't be taught by the teacher. Will the teacher teach students becomes will students be taught by the teacher. Won't the teacher teach students becomes won't students be taught by the teacher. Let's look at the progressive tense, also known as the continuous tense, starting with the active past. The teacher was teaching students becomes students were being taught by the teacher in the passive past. The teacher wasn't teaching students becomes students weren't being taught by the teacher. Was the teacher teaching students becomes were students being taught by the teacher. Wasn't the teacher teaching students becomes weren't students being taught by the teacher. Now in the active present, the teacher is teaching students becomes students are being taught by the teacher in the passive present. The teacher isn't teaching students becomes students aren't being taught by the teacher. Is the teacher teaching students becomes are students being taught by the teacher. Isn't the teacher teaching students becomes aren't students being taught by the teacher. Let's look at the perfect tense. Starting with the active past, the teacher had taught students becomes students had been taught by the teacher in the passive past. The teacher hadn't taught students becomes students hadn't been taught by the teacher. Had the teacher taught students becomes had students been taught by the teacher. Hadn't the teacher taught students becomes hadn't students been taught by the teacher. Now the active present, the teacher has taught students becomes students have been taught by the teacher in the passive present. The teacher hasn't taught students becomes students haven't been taught by the teacher. Has a teacher taught students becomes have students been taught by the teacher. Hasn't the teacher taught students becomes haven't students been taught by the teacher. The active future. The teacher will have taught students becomes students will have been taught by the teacher in the passive future. The teacher won't have been taught the teacher won't have taught students becomes students won't have been taught by the teacher. Will the teacher have taught students becomes will students have been taught by the teacher. Won't the teacher have taught students becomes won't students have been taught by the teacher. Congratulations! You have completed DCP Training, Development of Conversation Practice Training, video number 13, Passive Voice.